but God does get angry. And when we should be angry at things that anger God. Okay, if you're looking for a litmus test of where your anger is, you should be angry at things that anger God. Now, exploitation of human beings angers God. Does it not? I think it does. All sorts of examples: racial injustice, injustice and oppression towards women, exploitation through things like pornography, through abortion. Those things anger God. Exploitation of the less fortunate, financially, in mental capacity, social or religious hierarchies anger God. In fact, God saves some of his most righteous anger for those that call themselves religious. And people that are too religious, where their works get them closer to God, God saves most of his anger for them. And so for those of us that call ourselves Christians, we must be careful to not sort ourselves into a hierarchy that we're better than other people because we're quote unquote religious. God saves most of his anger for those people. So when you hear of a woman being sexually assaulted, that should anger you, okay? When you hear of a baby being aborted, that should anger you, particularly in the 3rd or 4th trimester, but all abortion in general. Exploitation of the less fortunate should anger you. When you hear of a disenfranchised community, such as the community we find ourselves in today, that was intentionally neglected by the government of the city, left to its own devices, and then was taken advantage of and made to start from the finish line about 10 yards back from everybody else, that should anger you. Should anger you. It's not good for people to take advantage of full communities, weaker vessels like children. It's not good. It's not good. And God says we should be angry at that thing. And when we don't get angry for injustice, sometimes it's often because, we lack proximity, right? We don't know anyone from that community, right? Maybe we don't know anyone from a specific community, or we don't have a lot of close relationships with women, or with, I don't have any kids, and so all I do is I kind of watch television, I watch the news, watch YouTube. That's kind of how I'm getting my news. And so when we don't have close proximity to people, we're actually able to see them as shadows, not as people. And so when shadows get upset, who cares, right? But hey, these aren't theoretical victims. These are actual victims. When you see people as shadows, they're not real to you. And so you say things like, hey, hold on a second. I know you're crying about that person being killed, but we need to get all like the information and facts about what happened. That's really easy to say when there's no blood in your family. It's really easy to say. But when there's actual people weeping and crying, and when you find yourself close to people different than you, or different genders, different races, different mental capacities, when you work in different contexts, you actually find yourself crying, weeping, and lamenting. God says that we rejoice with those who rejoice, and we weep with those who weep. You find yourself weeping with those who weep.